Hello and welcome back in, everybody. Today I'm covering a brand new commander that was just spoiled today, and I was so excited to talk about it. I put off another video I was making to make this one instead because I am a huge Enchantress fan, and this card just speaks to me. I will be building this one in paper. So this is my current list, my little V1 of the deck. Let's just get into the commander here. It's Narcy, Fable Singer. It's 1, a white, a black, and a green for a 3/3 human bard with lifelink. It says, whenever you sacrifice an enchantment, draw a card, and whenever the final chapter ability of a saga you control resolves, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is that saga's mana value. So yes, the two abilities that this commander has do play into each other. You know, your sagas die, except for the flip ones, that doesn't work. When your sagas get sacrificed to their last ability, the first ability of your Narcy will trigger, then you'll draw a card, and you'll also get the second one. However, there are a lot of enchantment cards that do sacrifice themselves to get value, and that will also draw you a card off of your commander. So those are just going to be sprinkled in through the different categories I'm going to be talking about today. So you'll see that over and over. So firstly, our commander is pretty important to our game plan. You know, it's our win con and it's one of our engines. So we are going to want to protect it. So first up, we're talking about some of our protection. First one I have here is Thrall Retainer. It's black for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and you can sacrifice Thrall Retainer to regenerate enchanted creature. So you play this out on your Narcy. If someone goes to remove it, sacrifice it, you draw a card off your commander's ability, and it regenerates your commander. Just great value for 1 mana. Next up, I have Gift of Immortality. It's 2 and a white for an aura. Enchant creature. When enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Return Gift of Immortality to the battlefield. Attach that creature at the beginning of the next end step. So if they want to completely get this off your commander and remove it, they're going to need to use 2 spells to do that. One to kill it, your commander will come back, and then before the next end step, they're going to need to use another spell to completely remove your commander. This is a fantastic included in a deck like this. It really helps save our commander from a sticky situation like a board wipe or anything like that. Next up, I got here Angelic Renewal, 1 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may sacrifice Angelic Renewal. If you do, return that card to the battlefield. This is slightly a little bit of a nombo with our commander because it has the sacrifice thing where you would draw a card off your commander, but if you're using it to get your commander back, you're not going to get the trigger, so it's only going to get you the sacrifice draw card if you use it on a different creature. However, I still think it's worth it in this deck. Last up in the protection category, I got All-Seed of Life's Bounty. It's 1 white for an enchantment creature nymph, 1/1 with lifelink. It says pay 1, sacrifice All-Seed of Life's Bounty. Target creature or enchantment you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. So this one protects your commander or some of your enchantments if you really need them to stick around and your opponents are going after them. Next up, I'm just going to go over some of the removal we have. Firstly, Seal of Doom, 2 and a black for an enchantment. Sacrifice Seal of Doom, destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. I got this one and some of the other seals in here. They all do pretty similar things. The other ones destroy artifacts and enchantments. This one kills creatures. I like that it doesn't sacrifice things, so it gets the card draw off of your commander. Next up, I got One Ring to Rule Them All. It's 2 black for a saga. Chapter 1 says the ring tempts you, then each player mills cards equal to your ring bearer's power. We don't really love the mill, however, we do have some recursion I can get into later. We're really in it for the next abilities. Chapter 2 is destroy all non-legendary creatures. We don't have that many creatures in the deck, and the most important one obviously is our commander, so this one is pretty sweet. Chapter 3 says each opponent loses 1 life for each creature card in that player's graveyard. So if you're playing this a little bit later into the game and some board wipes have already gone off, or people are milling or discarding or anything like that, this could really help our drain strategy get through and finish off some of our opponents. Another one here, we got Elspeth's Nightmare, 2 and a black. Chapter 1 says destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 2 or less, so that basically just kills one of our opponent's value creatures. Chapter 2 is target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Fantastic removal here. It just removes something before your opponents even get the chance to play it. Gets rid of a counter spell or something like that. Removal spell, board wipe, anything you really need besides non-creature, non-land. Chapter 3 says exile target opponent's graveyard. So it's just like a Bajuga Bog on a 3-drop. This is so much value, I think, for 3 mana. Plus, you know, you get the triggers with your commander. It's just fantastic. This one's really good in the deck. I like it a lot. Lastly here, I'm talking about Cleansing Meditation. 1 white for a sorcery. It says destroy all enchantments. You might be thinking, why would you want to destroy all enchantments? You're an enchantment deck. Because the second ability says if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, instead destroy all enchantments, then return all cards in your graveyard, destroy this way to the battlefield. So there's so many reasons this is amazing. For one, it kills all your opponent's enchantments. That's just fantastic in any deck. However, when we have the threshold is the only time we're ever going to use it, obviously. Plus, we're in a sacrifice deck, so it's going to be pretty easy to get the threshold. If our sagas are past chapter 1 and it destroys them, it brings them back, it resets all of our sagas back to chapter 1. That's really good value. Just get those triggers over and over again. I like this one a lot. Speaking of bringing some of our stuff back, we got some of the recursion here. First up, our 1-shot. It's Unnatural Restoration, 1 and a green for a sorcery. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, then proliferate. So the reason I chose this over something like Eternal Witness is because of that proliferate ability. That is super useful in a deck with sagas in it, because we can proliferate the lore counters, bringing us up up closer and closer to that last one, getting those triggers, getting your commander's triggers, getting the sacrifice trigger. It's super good. Try to put as much proliferate in your deck as you can. Next up, I'm going to be talking about Sun Titan. It's a classic. 4 white for a 6/6 giant with vigilance. Whenever Sun Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. In a deck that's all about sacrificing our little permanents to get value, such as our sagas or our seals or soul snare or anything like that, there's pretty much always going to be a target for Sun Titan to hit. So this is a great one to have in the deck. And probably one of our most powerful spells we have in the deck is Eerie Ultimatum. It's white, black, green, so 7 mana for a sorcery. However, it says return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. This can completely end the game for our opponents. You know, turn 10 or whatever, pretty late in the game, you know, we have a bunch of our sagas in the graveyard, a bunch of our other things in the graveyard. Bring them all back, they get to the next chapter, they all die, they deal a ton of damage. This can literally just end games on its own. It's super strong. Next up, I'll go over our card draw package. We're in Abzan Enchantress. So we have all the enchantresses. They pretty much all do the same thing. I'm not gonna talk about all of them, but basically they do what Enchantress's Presence does. It's 2 and a green for an enchantment. It says whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. All different variations of that, so just play all of them. There's like 5 or 6 of them. Next up, you got Pursuit of Knowledge. It's 3 and a white for an enchantment. It says if you would draw a card, you may put a study counter on Pursuit of Knowledge instead. Then you can remove 3 study counters from Pursuit of Knowledge, sacrifice it, then draw 7 cards. If your commander's out, you're gonna be drawing 8 because of the sacrifice. So since you're drawing so many cards in this deck, I think it's very likely that you could be getting all 3 of those counters in one single turn, and then you could completely refill your hand. Hopefully you have a Reliquary Tower out by then, maybe something else that gives you no max hand size, but this one's really good to refill your hand a little bit later in the game if you need to. Next up, I got the World Spell, 5 green. It's a saga. It also has read ahead, so if we want to skip to that chapter 3 and dome our opponents for that 7 and get the last ability, we can do that. However, first and second chapter are both the same. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-saga permanent card from among them and put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So this technically, obviously, it doesn't get you to draw triggers or anything, but it is putting the best of the top 7 into your hand. You do that twice. And the third chapter is put up to 2 non-saga permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So if you want to, you could pay the 7, go read ahead to chapter 3, throw down your Sun Titan, throw down one of your enchantresses, and you'll be set. Plus you're hitting your opponents for 7, you're gaining 7. It's incredible value. If you don't need, look at the top 7 and find something, you can go straight to chapter 3, have it sacrifice. Crazy value on that one. Next up, we got some of the ramp here. First one, Unbridled Growth, 1 green for an aura, enchant land. Enchanted land has tap add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you can sacrifice Unbridled Growth to draw a card. So yeah, I know it's technically not ramp, it's more mana fixing, but I think early in the game, if we do need one of our colors, we can use it, and then later, once we have casted our commander, we can sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. Draws a card on its own, and then off of our commander's ability. Another one I got here, Font of Fertility for 1 green enchantment, pay 1 and a green, sacrifice Font of Fertility, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Just ramp on enchantment as opposed to sorcery. Lastly here, we got Azusa Lost But Seeking, 2 and a green for 1/2 human monk. You may play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. I like to throw Azusa in every single one of my Enchantress decks because you're drawing so many cards and you don't want to be discarding them to hand size. You want to have the opportunity to be playing extra lands on your turns. For 1, it's ramp, obviously that's great, but 2, I think most of the time you're going to have between 5 and 10 cards in your hand, so you don't want to have to discard them. Being able to play the additional lands is really strong in this one. Then, like I always do, I'm going to go over some of the utility I have in the deck, just the general overall good stuff. Firstly, we got here probably one of the strongest cards in the deck, Satsuki, the Living Lore, green and a white for a 1/3 human druid, has tap, put a lore counter on each saga you control, activate only as a sorcery. When Satsuki, the Living Lore dies, choose up to 1. Return target saga or enchantment creature you control to its owner's hand, or return target saga card from your graveyard to your hand. So we're probably going to be using that last one. But that first ability with tapping, putting the lore counters on everything is just fantastic. This is basically tap proliferate, right? In our deck, it's tap proliferate. So good that I threw in War of the Last Alliance just to go get this card. It's 3 and a white for a saga. Chapter 1 and 2 are the same. Search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Chapter 3 says creatures you control gain double strike till end of turn, and then the ring tempts you. We're pretty much just playing it for the first 2 chapters. You know, if you don't have either of these, you can go grab them. You know, your Satsuki, you can go grab your Azusa, you can grab your Sithis to get your card draw. It's fantastic. 4 mana, great value here. I recommend playing this in every one of your Narcy decks. It's fantastic. Next up, we have Grim Guardian, 2 and a black for a 1/4 zombie enchantment creature. Has Constellation, so whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. This obviously just plays into the life drain part of our commander, hopefully pinging our opponents down fast enough to where we can win the game off of our commander's ability. And last but not least, I got Grateful Apparition. It's 1 and a white for a 1/1 flying spirit. It says whenever Grateful Apparition deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you proliferate. Again, proliferating is really strong in this deck. You're going to be wanting to do that as much as you can to be getting those sagas down and then bringing them back with some of your recursion. This card's fantastic. I especially like it because it has flying, so I think almost every single turn you're going to have at least one opponent that doesn't have flying or reach, so you're probably going to be getting this every single turn. So that's pretty much it for the deck. I'm going to go through some of the new cards here that I'm not 100% sure or not if they fit in the deck. They are pretty strong, but they are from the Precon. I didn't want to put them in their normal categories. I thought I would just talk about them all at the end here. So firstly, we got here Composer of Spring. It's 1 and a green for a 1/3 Satyr Bard with Constellation. It says whenever enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 6 or more enchantments, instead you may put a creature or land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. This card is fantastic. It's so good that they can print these really strong Constellation cards into a commander set so that we can actually get insane value that you couldn't be able to print in like a standard set, you know? This card's fantastic. Another really good one we have here, Ondu Spirit Dancer, 4 and a white for a 3/3 core cleric. Whenever enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a token that's a copy of it. Do this only once each turn. This card's fantastic. Copy one of your sagas, copy one of your removal spells, anything like that. We have so many enchantments in the deck that there's no way this is not going to get value. I mean, it is 5 mana, but I still think it's worth it. You do have a lot of mana in this deck. We got a pretty fun one here. I like this a lot. It's Demon of Faith's Design, 4 black for a 6/6 demon enchantment creature. Has flying and trample, and it says once during each of your turns, you may cast an enchantment spell by paying life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. You can also pay 2 and a black to sacrifice another enchantment, and Demon of Faith's Design gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the sacrifice enchantment's mana value. This card is literally made for Narcy. It's so good because you're gaining all that life off of your sagas dying, so you'll have extra life to spend on Demon of Faith's Design's first ability. And last but not least, this one's a hit or miss. The first 3, those cards are definitely going in the deck. This one, maybe. Might go in the deck, might not. It's Nyxborn Behemoth, 10 green for a 10/10 enchantment creature beast. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of non-creature enchantments you control. I think very often this is probably just going to be green for a 10/10 with trample. However, it also says pay 1 and a green to sacrifice another enchantment, and Nyxborn Behemoth gains indestructible till end of turn. You know what? Reading it again, this absolutely goes in the deck. This card's fantastic. 2 mana, 10/10 with trample that gains indestructible, also sacrifices your other enchantments if you need them to draw cards off of your commander. I am in love with all the cards that they printed just for this commander and how well they synergize together. I'm super excited to build this in paper. So if you want to check out my version 1 deck list, it's going to be in the description. You know, some of the cards aren't on Archetype yet, so I have some placeholders like the commander, but you can go ahead and check that out. If you guys like this one, please go hit subscribe for me. It really does help out my channel, gets more people to see my videos, more people see my deck techs, and just helps our channel grow. So thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate all the support I've been getting lately. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. All right, take care.